Get off this land right now. You don't belong here. That's what she screamed at me, moving her clipboard like it was a police badge, jaw clenched, and for half a second, I just sat there, coffee hanging in the air, blinking as three SUVs with flashing amber lights rolled up behind her, looking like we were about to shoot the most ridiculous episode of Cops you've ever seen. But this wasn't some alleyway or construction site. This was my uncle's front porch, the same battered old cabin he left me in his will, and my name was on every square inch of that deed. You ever had a neighbor cross the line so far you wondered if you were still asleep? Yeah, that happened. And trust meth line only gets fuzzier from here. If you've ever had someone try to take what's yours, tell me what you'd have done, because I'm still shaking my head. It was early, mist still clinging to the meadow out front, and I was sinking into my uncle's rocking chair for the first time, finally exhaling after a mess of paperwork, when these people showed, uppled by a woman, mid-40s, hair pulled so tight it could pop, blazer pressed sharp enough to cut glass. The kind of person who introduces herself with a job title and a warning. Behind her, this guy in a shiny reflective vest was patting a plastic badge like he thought it might grant him superpowers, while another started draping yellow tape around my trees. On my land. I nearly choked. I'm Mullen Pierce, chairwoman of the Riverside Meadows HOA. We've had reports of unauthorized occupation, she said, not asking, but announcing, marching right up onto my porch like she paid the mortgage. The badge guy, Derek apparently, starts putting down orange cones, like he's about to direct traffic for the Thanksgiving parade. This property's been flagged for multiple violations, Mullins said, waving some paperwork at me. And get this, she calls Derek our certified compliance volunteer. Certified by who? The Boy Scouts? I told them flat out, I'm not signing a thing, and if you want to inspect anything, let's see some real credentials. Suddenly, Derek looks like a kid who just remembered he left his homework at home. And that's when I spot a brand new reserved parking chairwoman sign staked into my boundary marker. I grabbed my phone, started filming Mullins' clipboard, Derek's badge, the cones, that ridiculous sign. So let me get this straight, I said. You're running an inspection with no warrant, using volunteers who can't show ID, and putting your own parking signs on my property line? They started mumbling about procedures and guidelines. Right about then, a dusty old pickup slows down. It's Rebecca Shaw, lives a quarter-mile away, first real neighbor I've met out here. She hollers, Nate, you all right? What's with this circus? I shrugged, apparently I'm under inspection. She rolled her eyes, muttered something about landscaping fees, and drove off. The whole thing felt staged, like a bad high school play where everyone knows their lines except you. Eventually, after a few threats of compliance actions, they left handing me a stack of stamped papers that looked official and meant absolutely nothing. I just sat there, coffee cold, wondering how some folks get so hammered on pretend power. Couple hours later, the moving truck finally showed upon me to find my driveway blocked by one of those same SUVs, parked sideways, like they wanted to make sure I couldn't unload a single box. The driver, Tom, just pointed to his running meter and said, Clock's ticking, bud. Out by the old oak, there's Mullen again, half hiding, watching every move I make like I'm about to strike oil. I started walking the property, line partly, trying to find another way in, partly to see if she'd follow. And wouldn't you know it, every time I changed direction, so did she. That's when I realized just how big this place really was. 5 acres, meadow rolling out to a little creek and tucked back by the pump house. I found a rusty ring of keys in a box marked Facilities Access. My uncle's, I guess. And, judging by the way Mullen ducked out of sight when she saw me holding them, they mattered. The pump house had a new padlock, but I got it open. Inside, pipes, electrical panels, and way in the back, a locked cabinet. Another key fit. Inside, stacks of documents, letters with county headers, lease agreements. Suddenly, I hear radio chatter outside. Keep watching him document everything. We need to know what he finds. Surveillance in my own property. Turns out, the HOA had been paying monthly rent to use my pump house and the mailbox cluster in my landlord signed by my uncle and co-signed by Mullen. automatic renewals, fully legal. I snapped photos of everything. When I stepped out, Mullen had shifted positions again, covering more ground than a border collie. Moving trucks still blocked, so I call a private tow, get the SUV moved, document everything, and leave a note. Suddenly, the radio in the bushes goes nuts. Abort mission. I guess I wasn't supposed to find any of this. That's when Grant Morgan strolled by, golden retriever in tow, grinning. Didn't know the HOA was running a tactical operation. Must have missed that memo. He winked, but you could tell he was taking notes. This wasn't just busybody, yes, this was organized. That night, I spread all the HOA notes and invoices across my uncle's old table. $300 a month for safety patrols, radios, bogus invoices, all signed by Mullen. 8 months of budgets, bouncing checks, flagged audits. Turns out my uncle had been fighting this circus for years, his letters a masterclass in polite defiance. But the last folder recent stuff showed things had gotten ugly right before he passed. They were pushing for more control, wanting the HOA to classify all the new gear and patrols as official assets, paying for everything with unapproved funds. His final letter was simple, sharp. Any further attempts to exceed agreed terms will result in immediate termination. Then the phone rang. Rebecca. She sounded cautious, maybe a little nervous. I'm the HOA treasurer. Something's off. There's a $2,500 equipment charge. Big facility fees, none of it was approved. She asked if I knew anything about the HOA using my property. I told her about the documents. We agreed to meet. Later that night, I found a handwritten note from my uncleef. Anyone tries to claim authority over patrols or mailbox area, show them the truth. Call the sheriff if they intimidate you. Some people forget the difference between authority and theater. That line stuck with me. Next afternoon, there's a community gathering by the mailbox cluster code for Let's Grill the New Guy. I showed up, clipboard in hand. 15 residents, Mullen in charge, Derek playing sidekick. I sat on my bench in my concrete pad and said, "Don't stop on my account. I want to hear about community concerns, especially the ones involving my land." The word "my" landed heavy. Rebecca spoke up. "I've reviewed the bylaws, no guidelines for volunteer inspections, and Derek's not certified." Another neighbor frowned. "Wait, we're paying for patrols, but he's not certified?" Someone else chimed in. "That wasn't in the budget." I let the silence do the work. Grant piped up about the new equipment, mentioned how he'd caught radio chatter on his nature podcast recordings. Rebecca had her folder, started pressing about that $2,500 charge. Mullen tried to spin it as safety expenses, but I jumped in. "Which facilities?" "Because they're on my private property." That got everyone's attention. Rebecca and I announced a financial review. Now the tide was turning. Next day, I called the county sheriff. Deputy Mark Lewis, specialized in HOA overreach, agreed to come out, check boundaries and procedures. I let Rebecca and Grant know, made sure I was visible by the pump house. Sure enough, Derek and another volunteer showed up, Mullen in tow, setting up folding tables and flashing their lights like a parade. But when Deputy Lewis rolled up real badge, real authority, Derek's swagger vanished. "Can I see your credentials?" the deputy asked. Derek froze. Mullen tried to smooth it over, but Rebecca dropped the bomb. For $1,000 in unauthorized spending. Grant played his recordings. Deputy Lewis made it clear, impersonating law enforcement is a crime. That night, Rebecca posted the financial breakdown at the local feed store, our town's real news hub. Over $6,000 in unauthorized spending, fake patrols, fake certifications, rent for facilities the HOA didn't even own. Mullen showed up, sat in her SUV for an hour, finally shuffled over, tried to claim it was private financial business. No one bought it. That afternoon, I served official notice. 3 days to remove all unauthorized equipment and explain every compliance activity, or I'd terminate the agreement and call the law. The evidence was rock-solid: fake badges, photos, receipts, witness statements. That night, Mullen called, voice shaking, all the fight gone. She confessed the HOA was broke, tried to cover it with compliance programs. Derek had gotten carried away, and she was scared of losing everything. I almost felt bad almost. 3 days later, with the whole neighborhood watching, Deputy Lewis confirmed it. Patrol program canceled. Mailbox lease terminated. All equipment off my land. Rebecca called an emergency HOA meeting. Grant checked his audio files. Neighbors tore down the last caution tape. I walked back to my cabin, finally breathing like the place was really mine. Last week, they tried to use fake authority to push me out. This week, I used the real law and a couple good neighbors to shut them down. That's the thing about bullies. They only win when nobody stands up. So what would you do if your HOA tried to pull this? Drop your story below. Who's right? Who's wrong? Where's the line between authority and abuse? Let's talk about it.